I believe that when the Spanish came up here, one of the first things they were seeking out were places to establish the missions, and but they were thinking about um, the land and how fertile it was and what would best produce the crops that they were going to be planting. But they were also looking at communities and seeing how communities were connected to each other and the alliances they had. And that was one of the strategies they used when they established San Gabriel Mission, both at its original site and then the succeeding site and where it is today. They looked at the communities and how they were allied with each other. And if you look at the reduction of the communities into the mission, it's almost like this concentric circle of communities that were connected to each other. They didn't reduce people on the coast or the islands because they weren't really connected so much through intermarriage like the people in the San Gabriel Valley were. So they systematically reduce people that way. They looked, they knew what they were doing. They were strategizing, and they basically connected or pulled people in who were connected to each other.
So that was a major trade center, agricultural center, kind of before.
Not so much. That's what they were looking for. The missions. They were looking for land that would support their agriculture.
Okay.
When they established the mission, what land would best support their agricultural crops? So that's what they were looking for initially.
Grapes for one.
Right. Yeah.
That was always a priority.
Yeah.
um, well, that was one of the questions that we had about Pavanga, about the mission or what it was like before that. But I think the idea of the concentric circles and bringing people in is something the linguistic map can't depict in many ways.
Right.
So it kind of limits our understanding. I know I've heard you and other Tamil people be frustrated that you get reduced to a mission in Indian that particularly tied to that mission when it's just the geographies are so much broader.
Communities. And I think at first people were kind of stuck on using San Gabriel as a centralized location, but even just in the short period of maybe 30 years, people have started to branch off and establish their own communities. And I think one of the misnomers that people start to come up with is that they're factions, and they're not really factions. They're communities that have existed that way before pre-contact, before colonization. We have these different communities that were set up that way, and I think as we go into the future, it's going to be even more and more that way. With each community having their own sense of leadership. But again, going back to the last conversation that we had, making it important that people understand that they need to be connected to each other to go into the future.